Hey guys, welcome back to ProgramHub, and today in this episode we're going to talk about how can you become a web developer in 2022. So guys, if you have made a resolution for yourself and if you want to become a web developer in 2022, so this can be a complete guide and roadmap for you for becoming a web developer in 2022. So guys, over here in this video, I'll help you with some of the steps that you need to take to become a web developer, and if you want to become a freelancer and start your career as a freelancer in 2022. So this is a roadmap that you should follow along for learning the web development technologies. So guys, today in this video, I'll be helping you with some technologies, what should you learn and how you should proceed, and what are the major steps that is to be taken in between learning everything so that it can make your path more easier and more comfortable towards becoming a freelancer in 2022. But before that, we do have a disclaimer for you. So the things that I'll be talking about in this video aren't going to be a complete set for web development, because there are much more things apart from these as well. And I know that you might be knowing some of those and you might be thinking that you have missed that thing. But today, my focus over here in this video is not to just let you know all the programming languages or the technologies that you should be learning for web development. But my focus here is that if you're a beginner, if you're just starting out as a web developer, so what are the basic necessities for becoming a web developer and what should you consider learning very first, and what are the most essential components that make web development? So starting up with the very first thing that is needed for becoming a web developer is the most essential component of web development, that is HTML. So the current version of HTML that is currently right now into the market, so that is HTML5 version, and this is something that you should be learning. Especially in web development, we do try to make a page, and the collection of pages together summed up is called as a website. So whenever we try to make a website, so there is a collection of pages, and to create that pages, the bare minimum body that contains the text, headlines, images. So the bare minimum body and the architecture of your website is made through HTML. So that is the reason you should be learning HTML very first, and there are a lot of sources right now available on internet. You can just go around on the internet and you can find a lot of different materials available for learning HTML, and the one that I recommend to you would be W3 Schools. That is one of the best websites right now. The link is down in the description below. You can go ahead to that link and learn some HTML. So now moving to the other part. So after HTML comes the second most important part. So HTML allows you to create the bare minimum body, but there is no styling into it. And right now in 2022, if you're learning web development, so styling or the design has gotten very much importance. So to put that style, to put that design and some interesting looks to your website, you need to know CSS. Now CSS is cascading style sheets, and this is by far the second most important component when we are trying to build any website or trying to make anything on web. So CSS is really more important to put that style into it. Like let's suppose you have a butterfly. You've just made an outline of a butterfly, that is your HTML. Now you're trying to put some colors into it and trying to make that glow. That is something CSS, and that is something it allows you to put more interest and put more color onto your page so that users can get attracted towards it and they can stay on that page and it looks really beautiful to have a look at to it. So now we are done with designing. So the complete designing of the website is now done. So this two parts, the first one that is HTML and the second one that is CSS. So these two in combination make the first important component of your website. So that is actually just allowing your readers or allowing your viewers to actually read something onto a website that can look really attractive. Now let's move ahead to the next part. So the next part is all about logics, trying to add some logics, some knowledge or a life to your website so that there is some interactivity with the content. For example, there is a form and you need to fill that form and you need to check that whether all the details entered into it are correct or not. For example, into the mobile number field, there should be only numbers, and that should also be limited to some numbers. So that's the reason we need to bring in a new technology that is called as JavaScript. Now JavaScript is not a new technology, but if you're learning web development for the very first time, so you might be hearing this for the very first time. So JavaScript is one of the most important component of a website because it tries to add in some logic to your website. So now your website can actually function as the way you want. So if you want to build any kind of a logic in your website so that when this kind of an event happens, this is something that should be done. So when you want to add any logic into your website, so at that very moment you need JavaScript, and this is one of the best technologies either to learn in 2022. And guys, JavaScript is just one of the best ones. The reason for that is you go at any another programming language, or if you go to any other framework, so JavaScript is one kind of a language or one kind of a programming language that is widely used onto a number of platforms and number of frameworks. So that is the reason JavaScript is really important to be learning. So this is a special tip for you. Go along learning JavaScript because it can enhance your skills to a great extent. And for example, if in later into the time, if you also want to use JavaScript for developing applications, so just using JavaScript and using Firebase, that is one of the NoSQL databases that we'll be just learning in the further time. So that is one of the most easiest way of building an actual application. So you can use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and along with that, if you use a NoSQL database, that is Firebase, so you can really make a great application. So this is an important recommendation for you. So much of importance JavaScript has. So if you want to learn JavaScript, do learn it in 2022, as it can be one of the very major languages into the coming future of time. And let's move on to the fourth component that is really important, that is database. So I was just talking about NoSQL Firebase, so let's talk about. So when we consider database, there are two different kinds of database. One is SQL and the other one is non-SQL. So what's the difference between both? So the difference is that when you try to store some data, so obviously when you have a website, you need to store some data. For example, the login details, for example, transaction details, or the product details. So everything that we have on a website has to be stored somewhere, and for storing that data we require a database that can either be a SQL database or a non-SQL database. So guys, in SQL database we try to store data in table format. So we have tables, and inside that we have got rows and columns, and those rows and columns format we do store the data. Whereas when we consider NoSQL databases, so NoSQL databases are something that are written in hierarchy format. So we have a tree diagram over there, so it follows on a tree structure. So over there sometimes we also use documents, sometimes we use a complete hierarchy of data. So basically we use a complete JSON format for storing data in NoSQL. And the major difference is that NoSQL is highly dynamic and scalable system, so that has been used in most of the latest technologies, for example for Facebook. So these new applications, these new social media sites, extensively they use NoSQL databases, and that's the reason it's really popular nowadays. So I really recommend you to learn NoSQL databases, and in NoSQL databases we have specifically got two database systems that you can do learn. So one is MongoDB and the other one is Firebase. So both are NoSQL databases, and these are really great ones. So you can use them to build applications, and just by having this much of knowledge, just by learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript and databases, that is SQL and NoSQL, you can build really great applications. So guys, this is the most basic pathway, most basic technologies or the programming languages that you should be learning as a web developer in 2021. So if you want to become a web developer, these are the technologies that can help you to make the first building blocks for your career as a web developer. And by the way, we have already published a detailed video for web development, and if you want to have a look at that video either, the link is in the top right corner. You can click there and have a look at that video either. So guys, this is the complete guide for becoming a web developer in 2022. And if you want to start a career as a freelancer, here's a small tip and advice from me. So start to utilize your knowledge from the very first day of learning web development. So whenever you're trying to learn, try to utilize that, use it for a project based system. So try to take in a project, try to take a project for yourself that you'll be building a profile website for yourself, and try to utilize all your knowledge. So whatever you're learning, just take in that knowledge, try to build the website that you're intending to make, that is in profile or a portfolio website, so that can showcase your knowledge, your skills, and everything that you have learned at to one single place. So if in case in future, if you need to show someone that what you have learned and how is your knowledge skill set, so you can just show that website and say that, yeah, this is my website and this is what I have built learning web development, and now you can judge upon this how good I am. So that is one thing that I would really recommend you, and I would really also recommend you that try to take in some projects that you can get from any one of your friends or family members or someone in your nearby. So if you can get a project, a real-time project, that would be really great over here. So guys, this is the complete information about it, and if you've got any more questions, any more doubts, please leave that down in the comment sections below. We'll be happy to read that and reply to you. And if you liked our video, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, meet you in the next episode. Till then, goodbye.